Hi everyone, this is J. Hope Suis from Hope Boulevard, and I am continuing on in my series from reading from my book, Midlife Joyride, Loving the Single Lane. We are on chapter 6, and we are talking about dating and the early stages of a relationship and things to look for and be aware of when deciding whether or not you want to actually pursue a dating relationship with someone. So we're going to dive right on in. Chapter 6 is called Roadside Assistance, and the quote is from Confucius, and it says, "Wheresoever you go, go with all of your heart." You have now entered the travel zone between the first date and a committed relationship. Some people call it hanging out, others say dating, and some of us older people actually call it courting. Whatever you name it, it's the time spent with another person to determine compatibility and evaluate relationship skills. This area should be speed controlled because no one should travel too swiftly through here. If you move too fast, you will miss the danger and directional signs that are placed all along the way. These signs should be read and followed to allow for a safe passage to a proper destination. Don't forget, this is also a fun zone and should be filled with adventures, experiences, and pleasurable memories. With equal amounts of caution and delight, you can move forward towards building a solid foundation for a long-lasting, satisfying relationship. Let's take a few minutes to look at some dating pitfalls, red flags, and important conversations to have before deciding to move on to being exclusive. Serial daters. A successful first date does not mean either party is ready to forsake all others. It is important at this stage to understand, especially in the online world, that they and you may still have other interested parties waiting out there. You are not obligated to explain yourself or time commitments and should not expect that in return. There are rare and special occasions when the first date is so terrific and both agree not to see anyone else, but that's usually not the norm. It usually takes a little bit longer for the rest of us to come to that decision. Beware of anyone who rushes you to make the decision to become exclusive before you are ready. They want you off the market for their own selfish reasons, and that can lead to an unhealthy start. With all that being said, I want to introduce you to the serial dater. These individuals have turned casual dating into an art form. They know exactly the right things to say, to do, and get that first date, and will play along nicely until they are ready to move on. Their goal is not to prepare for a serious relationship, rather to amass a collection of dates and experience with variety as their main motivation. A revolving door, you will, of playmates and activities with no pressure to focus on just the one person. In fairness, there's nothing wrong with this pursuit as long as there's honest dialogue up front. Unfortunately, this does not always take place, and worse, if it does, some people choose to ignore it and forge ahead anyway, thinking they will be the one to break the pattern. It is important to note, many serial daters are also interested in moving very quickly into sex because that's part of the conquest and the thrill. Be careful of anyone who pressures you into sex too soon after a meeting. In the spirit of fun, I have compiled a list of serial daters in the theme of breakfast cereal, of which we should all be aware. Alphabets. These serial daters have a Rolodex of names ready at their disposal for a last-minute rendezvous. Froot Loops. These wacky serial daters can't make up their mind and keep going back to recycle their dates. The crazy thing about Froot Loops is that it takes one to know one and go back to one. Cheerios. Just happy being free and unattached, always up for a good time. Corn Pops. These serial daters pop in and out of your life just when you think they're gone for good. The difference between a Froot Loop and a Corn Pop is that you've learned not to keep falling for their games. Cornflakes. These serial daters are just plain and non-committal. At least if you're going to be non-committal, be exciting and flamboyant. Frosted Flakes. Non-committals with gray hair. Fruity Pebbles. We all know serial daters like these, just plain crazy, avoid at all costs. Honeycomb. Now these are the sweet talkers. They want you to believe they're really not serial daters. They know just the right things to make you believe they are legit. It takes a little time and gut instinct, but eventually you will see through them. life. These serial daters are the more serious variety. They are not ready to settle down, but they are upfront about their agenda. I guess if you're going to spend time with one, this is a good one. Kicks, just wants to have fun. Similar to Cheerios, but a little more exciting. Lucky Charms. If you are charming, you might get lucky. I actually met a guy whose online name profile was Lucky Charms. That's a true story. Raisin Bran. This one tries hard to keep you going. Rice Krispies. Snap, crackle, pop. Always exciting, but with too much going on. Hard to pin down to anything specific and not much substance. Special K. They will convince you that they are convinced if you keep answering their text, they are special. Okay? Total. No lack of self-confidence with these serial daters. They believe they are the whole package. It is quite possibly they are, but no one is permitted to stick around long enough to find out for sure. Tricks. These silly serial daters always have something up their sleeve. And last but not least, Wheaties. The serial daters of champions. They are experts at juggling and multitasking. Maybe they are honest about it and comfortable with this lifestyle. One thing is for sure, they have done it for so long they couldn't be in a serious relationship if they wanted to. It is probably true that many serial daters are just in the transitional phase and want to explore possibilities. There is no crime in that. I will be optimistic and say most of them are probably upfront with their goals and motivations. For those of us who still fall for or are misled by them, just know it has nothing to do with you or your worth. It is just where they find themselves on their journey. We are all allowed a spot on the path. So I'm going to move on now to some things to think about and discuss with a new potential partner. Family goals. By this point in your life, the idea of starting a new family is mostly not on the table. However, it is common for a sim to still have children at home sometimes. The partner you pick must be willing to accept the challenges and limitations that come with children. You will not always be free whenever they want to do something, and they must understand they cannot come into your lives and have any type of disciplinary role. This is a grave mistake often made, especially by women who want to have a stronger male influence in the home. Do not let this happen, even if everyone has the best of intentions. I am not suggesting they cannot be a part of family time, but it should be gradual and as a spectator only. If you are the one with the empty nest and are interested in someone with children at home, be prepared and understanding. Their priorities will and should always be their children. Keep in mind also that adult children need time to adjust to seeing a new strange face with one of their parents. This is a big transition for everyone. Money matters. The number one topic couples argue about is money, to the tune of an average of 3 arguments per month. At this early stage, there should not be any sharing of bills or expenses, but you can start to see how they manage their finances. Do they live above their means? Do they pinch every penny? Are they living comfortably or barely scraping by? How do the answers to these questions line up with your spending habits? A person who is reckless or carefree with money, living paycheck to paycheck, will not last very long with someone who saves for a rainy day and plans deliberately on large purchases. It is true that aligning yourself with someone who has a handle on budgeting might help you do the same, but be cautious before getting too deeply involved with people who can barely take care of themselves. While they may be a great person, being independent should be a prerequisite for starting a relationship. If not, you are setting up a situation of support and eventual resentment. Also, never lend money to someone you have just met. They should be able to work out their own debt. Becoming a bank for a new date is foolish and will doom the budding romance. Political affiliation. There is no subject I am less qualified to talk about than politics. I hate almost everything about it. Most people have extremely strong feelings either for or against politics in general, political parties, candidates, agendas, causes, etc. People lose their minds arguing for and against their views. The experts suggest not talking about politics or religion on a first date, and that's fine, but it should come up fairly soon. It is impossible. Oh, it is not impossible for a couple to be successful with different political views, but it is rare and difficult depending on how vocal and adamant they are in their beliefs. Ideology is seldom reversed, especially at this age, and pretty much what you see is what you get. Religious views. Religion is another hot button issue for many, and one that is closer to my heart than the others. As I was raised in a conservative Christian home, the religious options on many dating sites have several boxes to check, and I have often wondered how much thought goes into the answers. Over time, I have typically stayed away from those who picked non-religious as their choice because I did not wish to constantly defend my beliefs. Over time, when I have questioned certain guys about what that answer meant to them, many of them did not have a specific answer. It just seemed like a safe medium choice for those who did not have an actual preference. They were not anti-religious, just not currently affiliated or actively involved. I do believe that a couple can survive if their religious views are slightly different, as long as there is respect and good communication. This is also an area where people tend to start being untrue to themselves and lay the groundwork for causing a rift later. Both men and women do this. It begins by wanting to be with someone so strongly that they agree to accept the other person's beliefs. They start attending service with them or integrating into the doctrine, not out of personal conviction, but only to win affection. I suppose there is a percentage who genuinely decides to follow this new path, but many will eventually fall back into their previous patterns, and then a bait and switch argument is destined to take place. Be honest with your new partner about your religious beliefs and views and how strongly they are integrated into your life. You should not have to compromise these to be with someone else, and you should never expect another to do the same. If you can have an open dialogue and mutual respect, there is certainly the chance for a successful outcome, provided there is never any intimidation or manipulation on either side. Travel advisories. The old saying goes, love is a two-way street. This analogy is flawed because on a two-way street, each person is traveling in a different direction, which is definitely not the goal. We need everyone traveling the same way and paying attention. As you are touring down these dating avenues, enjoying the sights and sounds, keep your eyes peeled for certain warning and directional signs. We can be reckless, take off without a map, and ignore the signs around us. It might seem like fun at first, and can certainly create some adventures, but it rarely leads to your desired destination and often ends in a blowout. We need guidance and tools. We need to trust our instincts and our heart while heeding the signs along the way. They are positioned for your protection and your guidance. Merge. A merge happens when one road gradually incorporates into another. Two travelers are alone on their respective highways heading in different directions when at some designated point ahead, a connecting path fuses the two lanes into one. You cannot force or rush a merge. It happens at just the right moment in the journey. When both parties are paying attention, the transition is smooth and travel is not interrupted or disturbed. Both cars seamlessly fall in line together. I am hoping this is the very first traffic sign you see because this is the correct way to start your relationship adventure. Yesterday you were traveling alone on the road, and now today you see another lane open up ahead with someone who wishes to join you. Don't rush past them or lag behind. Just make room and enjoy the ride. Stop. This sign can pop up anywhere along your journey, and ignoring it will set you up on a collision course. It usually starts as a nagging whisper in the back of your mind that something isn't quite right. Maybe it was a discussion that quickly turned into a heated argument, or pressure to move too quickly into sex. You may have noticed glaring differences in their personality from what their profile post said, or witnessed behavior that is unacceptable to you. Understand that people put their best foot forward when they first meet. If their best causes you concern or does not line up with your values, then stop the progression immediately. You do not owe them a commitment just because you've gone out a couple of times. It is precisely the point of dating, and as soon as you know this is the wrong road, exit and do not travel on it any longer. No U-turn. A U-turn is made when we no longer wish to proceed forward and believe we should go back to where we started, or back where we were. That's okay if you took a wrong exit, as with the previous stop. The problem starts is when you travel too far back in your past. It doesn't matter if your past was great or horrible, but you don't live there anymore. As I discussed in Chapter 2, I took a U-turn all the way back to my second husband and married him again. I reasoned and rationalized myself into believing I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't. I was lying to myself and living in fear of the unknown. A familiar rough road was easier for me to conceive than an unfamiliar new road, or so I thought. Other couples make the same mistake. They break up and get back together in a relationship revolving door. They do it out of loneliness, insecurity, or even financial reasons. Unless a significant change occurs during the first break, the same issues will resurface, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. It is scary to cruise down a highway we have never seen before. It feels like we are lost. It is tempting to want to return to what is known, even if that reality was not healthy or positive. We made the decision once to move forward with reasons and convictions, so when we take that U-turn, we should be careful never to travel too far back. I understand how tempting it sounds and how frustrating it is to feel like we have taken yet another road from which we need to exit, but it's called life, learning, and growth. Never be afraid to admit the need to start over and trust the voice in your heart. There is no disgrace in hitting the reset button on the GPS. Learn from the rough roads, but keep moving forward and ahead. This is where your future and your dreams await. Wrong way. This sign is very similar to stop, except with a stronger warning. It clearly states that this is not the road to travel. You've encountered this sign a time or two, as have I, and we both drove right past it knowing we were heading straight for disaster. Then we have the nerve to ask, why me? I heard a radio talk show host discuss this on air with a female caller. She was asking why she always attracted the wrong guy, whether it was a cheater, a drinker, or an abuser. The radio host very candidly explained that the woman wasn't attracting the wrong guys, she was choosing the wrong guys. The difference is the verb. One is passive, victim, the other is decisive, intentional. Do you get that? It is a powerful concept. Most people in our lives are there by our invitation. Be careful whom you welcome. If you see a pattern of destructive behavior in your past partners, stop looking at them and start looking at yourself. You are the only common denominator, and you must decide to be intentional in your choices and make good choices. If you see the wrong way sign and you go anyway, a crash is soon to follow. Heed the warning, do not go down that road. Detour. I'm about 50-50 on this one. I cannot decide if this is a negative or a positive. Depending on the circumstances, it can be both. If we've set a path with someone and are cruising along with the plan, a detour can cause delays and can make us even miss our intended destination. For example, if you've been dating someone for a while and another one catches your eye, you may be tempted to divide your attention. After all, the commitment talk has not happened and the options are still open. While this is true, be thoughtful and sure before taking this particular detour. Never hijack progress by chasing a rabbit trail down a dead end. There is always the risk of not being able to return to the main road and losing ground already covered. If things are going well, remain focused on the goal of communication and compatibility while traveling only one road at a time. Unfortunately, sometimes detours come out of nowhere and we have no choice. An unexpected health issue with either ourselves or our family, or additional expenses or circumstances need our immediate consideration. Things arise that demand our time and attention, and during those times we need to remain patient and centered on when and how we can return to our journey. However, it is also true we can get in a rut and speed through life even with a new partner, without stopping to enjoy the scenery and the time together. Our habits and routines rob us of life sightseeing opportunities. It is a good idea to occasionally take a small side trip or break from the fast pace to explore a lovely detour. Experience a different landscape to get a new perspective can be refreshing and invigorating. I highly recommend getting lost on one of love's back roads to unwind and relax every chance you get. Speed limit. There is a reason why the speed limit is lower within the city limits. There are stoplights in the city with other cars going in many directions, and it is necessary to start slow when the light turns green. Punching the gas can damage your car, put you at risk. Every new relationship has its own set of stoplights. The speed of taking off should be slow and cautious. Starting quickly in a budding relationship is tempting and sounds fun, but it is often not a good idea. The two of you need time to figure each other out and determine your interests, goals, and chemistry. There are still other cars around. Are you sure you want to leave all the other cars behind and travel with just this one? That is not a decision to take lightly. It is also rough on your engine, heart, to push it too hard after it has been stopped for a long time. Blindly speeding into a committed relationship can show a lack of focus and true companionship, and appears to just to be a desire to escape being alone. This is not a good combination. Steer your car slowly through the first couple of green lights and the other traffic, and if the two of you are still together when you make it to the open road, then hit the throttle and see what lies ahead. Yield. While merge and yield are quite similar, they are not the same. Most of the time, merging does not require you to stop. You just move slowly and smoothly into the flow of traffic. However, quite often you find yourself at a stop when having to yield. To yield means someone else has the right of way and gets to go first, and you follow afterward. When traveling, sometimes you must yield, and sometimes you get to go first. No one person in a relationship should always be yielding. While it is great to put the interest of your partner ahead of yours, if only one of you is doing that, it is an unfair and unstable arrangement. If you find yourself always yielding, try speaking up. I am not suggesting being cruel or abrasive. However, your opinions count, your ideas matter, and your wants are important. Maybe there is a pattern that has developed out of habit. If so, this habit needs to be broken so you can go first occasionally. If your partner refuses to let this happen, you should find the next exit and take it quickly. On the flip side, if you are the one always going first, then you should re-examine your own motives. Some individuals are people pleasers and will go along to get along. They don't want to suffer the consequences of displeasing you. Listen to this. Just because someone always agrees with you doesn't mean they always agree with you. Let that sink in a minute. This is a good recipe for resentment. Be thoughtful and considerate of your partner's needs and desires. If you are in a relationship with a people pleaser, you surely will know this. Let him or her go first. Pick, decide. I promise you the reward will be worth waiting your turn. Dead end. If there is a sign that says dead end, you know what's eventually ahead of you. Nothing. Some dead-end roads have a turnaround spot before you reach the end, but some just keep going and going until the road just runs out. The term dead end seems to have originated as a military term in ancient Greece. The Greeks would create dead-end pathways and lure the enemy into them. When there was nowhere else to go, they would be attacked from the rear and destroyed. I'm not saying that people in dead-end relationships were lured there, but the result can feel almost as painful. Like, while an ambush is unlikely, the warning signs were there, and at least one of you knew it was going nowhere. What are the signs? Dating someone who is still involved with another or not completely over an ex. Dating someone with vastly different ideas or values. Dating someone who is abusive or cheats. Dating someone you do not respect or who does not respect you. The list is long, but you get my point. Life is too short and your heart is too precious to waste traveling down a road that holds only despair. That is our collection of relationship road signs. Heed them for safe travels or ignore them and accept the consequences. There is no excuse for traveling blindly. Learn to read the signs and trust them Now comes the fun part. You have chosen carefully, met, and approve of a partner with whom to start a new journey. Roll down the windows, crank up the music, cruise on down life's highway, and enjoy every minute with your new traveling companion. Okay, that was the end of, or that was chapter 5. It's chapter 6, I'm sorry. We are now on to chapter 7, which will be the next video, and it is called Rev Your Engines, Sex and the Sim. So I hope you will join me as I continue the video series. I am J. Hope Suis from Hope Boulevard, and thanks for watching.